no wonder kids are so hard on themselves. It's because we don't, we only put like the paper on the refrigerator. We don't put the C paper up there. We don't ask them during dinner, "Ooh, honey, what did you fail at today?" and really think that was a good thing. Instead, we ask, "Well, what did you do well today? How did you do at sports? How did you do this? Did you get the blue ribbon?" It's always achieve, achieve, achieve. So we recognize and we award achievements rather than effort.
Welcome to Vulnerability Muscle, the inspiring podcast challenging norms and helping you redefine vulnerability as a strength. I'm your host, Reggie D. Each episode of Vulnerability Muscle dives into a variety of topics such as mental health, social issues, and mindset shifts. We explore the power of vulnerability and fostering meaningful connections, healing, building resilience, and promoting personal growth. Sometimes these conversations are uncomfortable, but good workouts often are. So join us and flex that vulnerability muscle. Welcome to this episode of Vulnerability Muscle. I'm your host, Reggie D. And today I have an amazing guest. This is Brenda Do. As a Chinese girl growing up in the 1970s, Brenda noticed that none of the books at school and in her library featured characters who looked like her. Even at that young age, the lack of diversity made her feel excluded. Even worse, it planted a seed that she wasn't as good as the kids pictured in the books. So when writing her inaugural children's book, It's Okay Not to Know, Brenda intentionally created inclusive characters that all children can relate to. The story features whimsical characters untethered from race, gender, socioeconomic status, and physical ability. As a seasoned copywriter, Brenda expertly distills complex social emotional learning themes into accessible narratives. You know how adults often look back at their younger selves and think, if I only knew then what I know now. I wrote this book to offer some of that knowledge so our young ones can get a head start at living their best lives, Brenda says. Ugh, I love this. And with no further ado, Brenda Do, how are you doing?
Hey, that could be a rhyme. No further ado, Brenda Do. And thanks for saying my name correctly, too. I'm doing awesome, Lee. Thanks.
Well, I'm glad I got it right. I usually try to check, but I felt confident in that. So I'm glad. But I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I've listened
Yeah.
to so many of your podcasts, and I'm just thinking, it's so real. And the world
Mm.
needs more of that. So
Mm.
thanks.
Thank you. And we're going to keep providing more of it. And I know that we're going to get some real from you, and I appreciate you. I want to ask just a question I've been asking today is how's your heart?
Ooh, that's a good one. My heart is full. It's
Mm.
full and it can take on more.
Yes.
Yeah, I set my energy in the morning and I call it my upstairs team. And anytime good things happen throughout the day and what I wish for, what to create throughout the day, I always say, okay, ooh, I like this. More, please. So my heart can always expand for more love, more happiness, more everything.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you have some capacity for more. That is good. Like bring all the abundance to you and to others and to everyone that we encounter on our day. I hope that they feel some of that same feeling in their heart because we need it. We all
Yeah.
need it.
And I like how you're
But
talking about bringing it on to others as well.
yes.
Because the way I look at it is the more I have, the more I have to share. And it's all
Mm.
about uplifting everyone else,
Mhm.
as well as yourself, right? I
Yes.
always believe you come first because as you know, you can't give what you don't have. And then so I was just like, it's like it could be anything. It could be happiness, it could be experiences, it could be money, anything. Because and I always tell the universe, I love money and I look good in a lot of money. So I am not shy about it. So I was like, I can take more, please.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that abundant mindset, right?
Mhm.
And like even in that example of it, it's about like what you have a lot, but you also can give a lot. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, we we take the association that money is evil, or money is the root of evil, and you realize that it is a tool that can be used for a lot of good too. So I love that.
Yeah. And the thing is, all of those well-meaning stories that we were told and those beliefs, good people are poor. Money is a root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Well, technically it does because it was paper back in the day, you know. And you look at all those, what it's telling us subconsciously is money is bad and people with money are bad. So therefore, if you want to be a good person, you should stay down there. You should
Yes.
stay poor. And then people grow up wondering in life why they can't seem to get ahead. And when they do get ahead, they might lose it, or
Hmm.
something happens, right? There's something like the other shoe always drops and all that kind of stuff. And that's all from subconscious beliefs,
Yes.
right? And you are so good at knowing what subconscious beliefs are running your show. Who is talking to little Reggie inside and saying, "Oh no, little Reggie's trying to keep big Reggie safe," but you're
Mm.
like, "No, no, no, this isn't what we want anymore, right? We
Yeah.
need to parent ourselves to get through that." And
Yes.
that's very similar to what my book is does too. It's to teach the little kids those little beliefs that well-meaning adults kind of screw them up with, you know.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I
But
want to
then
get
small.
into that, but
Uh-huh.
first let's hop into a segment called "What Comes to Mind."
Okay.
All right. So first thing that you can think of, there's no right or wrong answer. It can be as long as you want. But what comes to mind when you hear the word vulnerability?
Strength. Yeah, because people think being vulnerable and crying is a weakness because we're taught that. To
Hmm.
me, to be able to truly express yourself, to feel heard, to really show where the hurt is, that takes a heck of a lot of strength.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the what I realized when coming up with this podcast and the name. It was just like I jumped into this matrix of vulnerability, and I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was like, the more that I exercise my vulnerability muscle, the stronger I feel, the more liberated I feel. And it was like vulnerability muscle. And like it's liberating when you can drop the shame and the shackles of those narratives that little Reggie, little Brenda got told, and start to reclaim that story. And so I love that strength. Ooh, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Especially as
What?
ethnic people too. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, because I grew up thinking, was told, you don't cry, you don't
Hmm.
speak up, you don't say anything. You're supposed to be this little robot, a good little
Yep.
robot, and that's it. And it was bad enough that the women couldn't show anything. The men were expected to be even more stoic.
Yeah. Wow. 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 I'm working on a talk right now, and one of the lines that I remember hearing growing up was, um, "Stop crying before I give you something to cry about."
Oh, yeah.
Totally invalidating the emotional experience that I'm feeling that led me to crying, and then saying, "I'm going to give you something physical punishment to
Mhm.
cry about," and how that message gets ingrained in many of our young people, that their emotions don't matter, and that they're not a reason to express what comes out naturally for humans. And so just reprogramming all of that, unlearning all of that is huge. So thank you for that. What do you do to center yourself when you're feeling stressed or maybe depressed?
Oh, I go out in the woods. So I live in the greater Seattle area. So it's very green and mossy and rainy here. you know? So we got a lot of woods and a lot of water. And
Yeah.
what best thing for me to ground myself is to get outside, be in
Yes.
nature, and move my body.
Hmm.
It just really helps you just calm the heck down. And then
Love
you
it.
start figuring out it's not all that serious. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It simplifies life. Oh, I love it. I love it. Nature is the best. And then lastly, what is a favorite childhood memory of yours?
My favorite childhood memory, I think I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I got a big old stuffed Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh Bear. And this was back in the day where my family didn't have much money. So Christmas was pretty much, oh, you got a pair of socks. It was very practical. And it was the one time I actually got a toy. And that Pooh Bear was my best friend for probably 30 years. And I'm in
Wow.
my 50s now. I still
Uh-huh.
have him. So, yeah,
Wow.
he's body bagged and up in a closet.
That's special.
Yeah. So, he's still my best friend. I can never toss him. Too many
That is
memories.
super special. Oh man, I love that. Well, I if do you have pictures of him?
Yeah, I do, but he's kind of scary because he was a 1970s Pooh Bear. So they made stuffed animals a little different back then.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
that's
I look
so
at him
funny. I
now, I'm
would
like,
love
ooh.
to see. I would love to see him. I think that'd be really cool just to see the difference in what it represented for you. That's really nice. Do you know the like the history of Winnie the Pooh and all the characters and how they were created to highlight neurodivergence? Is that true? Like, do you know anything about that?
Ooh, I didn't know about the neurodivergence part.
I
Yeah.
think if I'm not mistaken, and somebody please correct me if I am, but I want to say like each of the characters represented like I think maybe Tigger is like ADHD, and then you have depression and is it Eeyore?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like so all of the different characters had some type of neurodivergence that they were highlighting, and it was like one of those times early on that it was celebrated in that way. So yeah,
Oh, yeah, that one I haven't heard yet. I know
yeah.
that it was A.M. Milne's, the author's creations. They were, well, actually, no, that's not true. Yeah, they were creations for his son. However, I
Mm,
don't know if they were personal aspects of himself. He
mm,
definitely, he mentioned that he created some of the characters uh, based on the people he saw around him, in the
okay,
village that he lived in. So, the
awesome.
rabbit, who's always Mr. Nosy telling everybody what to do. The owl who thinks he knows everything. Because everyone
Right.
knows someone like that.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know?
I'm curious about your village when you were growing up, your community, your folks. Who was around and what shaped you? Who shaped you early on?
We grew up, so there were 5 kids in my family. And so my parents were immigrants. So English is my second language. And then so we grew up basically within ourselves
Mm.
because we were the only chocolate chip in the cookie in our neighborhood. And so it was not safe to be out.
Wow.
Yeah, we were not welcomed. Even at school, we weren't welcome.
And this was
And
in the Seattle area?
oh, sorry, this was in California. This is
Okay.
back in the 70s. Back then, they didn't have English as a second language. So I was all excited to go to school with my little Holly Hoppy lunch pail, and I didn't realize that I wasn't speaking the same language until I went to school and went, "What's going on? I don't get it."
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, and then so when the teachers were so upset with us back then, since they didn't have ESL training, I remember the principal coming to my mom's house and saying to her, "Your kids can't be in our school until they learn English, so they
Mm.
are no longer welcomed here." So the way we figured it out was watching Sesame Street
Wow.
and Electric Company. And so, and I was all counting with the, Muppets, trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh
And
my
then we popped
goodness.
ourselves back in school. So, because of that environment, we weren't very welcomed anywhere outside of the house.
Mm.
My tribe was our family.
Mhm.
It were our immediate cousins who lived nearby, and also my parents and my siblings. And that was so it was quite insular if you think about it. So I didn't have much knowledge of the world outside of that for a long time.
Wow, wow. That is such a challenge for a young person, probably not truly understanding everything that's going on and being told you can or can't and being liked or not liked and that must be extremely difficult. What brought your parents over and what was that journey like for them if you had conversations with them? I'm curious.
And what brought them over was just more opportunity. It was during the time when they knew China before it became communist. They escaped it, and then in the 60s, or I think my dad came in here in the in the late 40s, no, early 50s, around there, in the mid 50s. And then my mom came here in the 60s. And then so during that time, they were just thinking, okay, we want to start a family. We want to have somebody start it in the US. We don't understand totally what's available, but we'll make it work because it's better than what we have now back in the home country. So, like most immigrant stories, it's we sacrifice this generation so the next generation can keep moving on up and then up and up and up. So when I hear the stories of what they went through, especially with the wars and everything else, I mean, we have a really pansy soft life, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So when I get stressed out at work, I got deadlines or something's exploding, whatever it happens to be, I got to sit back and go, am I eating? Yeah. Do I have a
yeah.
roof over my head? Do I have my
Wow.
health? So there's no real emergency here. We got to just
That
keep it in
definitely puts things
perspective.
in perspective.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I'm glad they came and I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
But you know, in the environment that we're in, there's a lot of misconceptions about immigrations or immigrants. And what would you say to dispel some of those myths? I mean, you've already hinted at a couple of them, but like what would you say to somebody who has some feelings about immigrants in a negative way?
I think like what comes to mind is what we hear in the news now. The biggest thing is they steal our jobs.
Mhm.
Well, depending on the immigrant and depending on what's available and how they came into this country, they're not stealing their jobs. They're doing the jobs that most people don't want. And
Yeah.
definitely for the pay, that most people think that is too low for what they do. So they're doing your harder jobs, working longer hours for less pay. So really, if anything else, they're being taken advantage of. Now
Mm.
you can argue, well, they shouldn't be here anyway. They don't have a choice. I was
Yeah.
like, well, there's a lot to go around that with as well. Yeah, as far as explaining why they should be here, how it does help our economy, because there are lots of studies to talk about that. One thing about immigrants is they come here. I can't speak for all, but like for my family, they came here because they wanted to continue the family line at a higher level with
Mm.
more opportunities, more education, more money, more bigger families, whatever it happens to be. They weren't asking for us to be president of the US. They just wanted us to have a happy, healthy life and not struggle so much.
Mhm.
So they came in here legally, they worked their butts off. They did blue collar their entire lives, working 20 hours a day, 6 days a week. So if anybody says that they're lazy and they steal and all that kind of stuff, they really don't know their facts.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And I know throughout different periods of history, different types of immigrants and different ethnic backgrounds were targeted for different reasons. And you know there was a anti-Chinese, there's anti-Irish, there are all these different periods where there is a huge push against a certain group of immigrants. Was that prevalent in the 70s?
Not the anti-Chinese part. However, I was young enough to meet people who were Irish and worked in the camps, the railroad camps, along with the Chinese. I heard some disturbing stories because of
Mm,
the violence, the racism, and everything. And here I am, like 4 years old, not quite getting it, but being freaked out. So,
wow.
yeah, but and I understand how because usually what creates any type of hatred is fear.
Hmm.
Because if you don't understand something, you're going to instantly go, oh, well, it's scary. Maybe it's a threat. So I'm going to push it away no matter what. And, when you start joining the bandwagon and not thinking for yourself, then it can actually start escalating and becoming violent. And oh gosh, have you watched that movie that's recent? It's called The Wild Robot.
I have not, no.
Have you heard of it?
I haven't. Tell me about it.
Oh, it's out. I think it's still in theaters now, but it's streaming. So it's available streaming.
Okay.
The Wild Robot talks to what's happening now in this,
Mm,
and with all of the political stuff happening all over the world, though. And unfortunately, it's an age-old story since humanity walked the earth, right? So what it talks about is you have a situation where you've got a new community, something is new within it, they don't understand it, They automatically fear it. They deem it a monster. They give it derogatory names. They teach their young to hate it and to be fearful of it.
Mm.
And the entire time, that new entity, which was the robot, is just trying to help and trying to show love. And
Wow.
then so the whole message is when everyone comes together through love, through understanding, they're all stronger together. And they're
Mm,
meant to work together, not to work apart. So
powerful.
the message is definitely one of those where it unfortunately probably needs to be repeated until humans stop walking the earth.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where it's so beautiful and it's so simple and it's so true. It all comes down to love. You don't
Yeah, it
fear when you
does.
have love. You open your heart and you're willing to listen when you have love. There are no wars when you have love because you can't love and hate at the same time.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I say, so it's funny. This was probably 10 years ago, but Facebook used to do like your most used word and your posts or comments and all of that. And they like went through all the information you put on there. And for me, they did the word scramble and my biggest word was love. And I thought that was very telling of just the value that is in my life and how I think it is the strongest force. I think it can help overcome so many evils that we see, and I think more importantly, uh, we have to find that love for self, and that's
Oh,
why I talked about it in TEDx. I think there's so much noise that make us not love ourselves just as we are. That is a part of society and culture and normalized. That if we got to a place of really loving ourselves, then we have more space. We have more
mhm.
room for other people so that that love can shine. So,
Oh, exactly. And that's where the book goes too, because it's all about self compassion, self love. And once you learn to use that to overcome obstacles, then you have the compassion to love others and to help
mm,
them along. So you're so true. It all starts with the self, right?
mhm.
And when it comes to self love, unfortunately, most of the messages that, again, well meaning adults don't know because it just keeps getting passed down, thinking this is what you're supposed to do. But thankfully, we're starting to open up and realize, yeah, maybe not so much.
Yes.
So, what a lot of kids, unfortunately, are learning to at very young ages are I'm not enough.
Mhm.
I'm not smart enough, fat enough, skinny enough, good enough for me, white enough. That
Mm.
was the message that I got growing up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you talked about the book, like go back. So bring us back. Had you written? I mean, you're a copywriter, but what was your writing experience prior to writing the book? And then what was the ultimate inspiration for bringing it to life?
Well, my experience writing is completely opposite of the book. I write business to business content, mostly for tech. I write thought
Mm,
leadership articles and things like that for CEOs, and so basically, at you because as a copywriter, you're in the background, so someone
mhm.
else will because you're kind of ghostwriting for others sometimes. And in some, basically, I spend my day acting and sounding like a 50-year-old white man
Wow.
in business.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, you know, I have to go completely opposite to write a children's book, right? And this is my first children's book. So what inspired it is years ago, I was visiting my little nephew and niece at their parents' house, and we were just finishing dinner, and my nephew was helping us put away the leftovers. So he was holding a little plastic container with full of food, and the lid wasn't on tightly enough. So then he accidentally dropped it, and it was
Mm.
a hot mess. I mean, there was food all over the counters, the floor, the cabinet walls. I'm like, I'm seeing it. And then the sad thing was, his first reaction was, "Oh man, I'm so stupid."
Oh.
Yeah, I know. And it just broke my heart because it's not like his parents yell at him and call him stupid when he makes a mistake. And then I thought, why was he so hard on himself instead
Mhm.
of sitting back and going, oops, and helping clean it? Instead, he just took it as a personal proof that he wasn't worthy of something.
Wow.
And then, so the copywriter in me, now as a copywriter, we analyze social, you know, or behavior, um, we analyze cognitive behavior,
Yeah.
basically. So I spend my time staring at people. I'm that quiet person, basically. Like you can put a lampshade over my head in a party, and I'm all listening to everyone's conversation, trying to figure out why did they say that? What makes them
Yeah.
think that? I wonder what happened in their life to make them act that way. Right? I'm
Wow.
always analyzing because that's how we can help write in a way that's more engaging is by
Yeah.
understanding the audience. And then so the copywriter in me kicks in. And I'm thinking, what caused him to be this way? And then I
Mm.
started going down this rabbit hole of research. And I don't know if you're familiar with Carol Dweck's work. She's the
On
one that,
grit?
no, she's the one
No.
that created the whole growth mindset. And she's
Okay.
a
Yes. Yes.
a
You're. Yeah.
Stanford psychologist,
Yeah.
and she did all these studies with kids. They were amazing studies. And then so I started looking at her work, started looking at this and that. I started thinking back at the messages I receive and I hear commonly. And I realized no wonder kids are so hard on themselves. And it's because we don't, we only put like the paper on the refrigerator. We don't put the
Mhm.
C paper up there. We
Right.
don't ask them during dinner, "Ooh, honey, what did you fail at today?"
Yeah.
And really think that was a good thing. Instead, we ask, "Well, what did you do well today? How did you do at sports? How did you do this? Did you get the blue ribbon?" It's always achieve, achieve, achieve. So we
Hmm.
recognize and we award achievements rather than effort.
Hmm.
And when I say about, what did you fail at today? We don't ask kids to push themselves and stumble and explore the stumble
Yep.
and then reward them for, oh, you went out of your comfort zone. Good on you.
Yes.
What did you learn from that? How can you, pick yourself up and then keep stumbling later, because you keep expanding when you do that. It's
Hmm.
just like your TEDx talk, right? When you
Hmm.
really went inside and you let yourself go, you actually became more expansive, more powerful version of yourself. You're able to
Definitely.
have the confidence to start a podcast, do another presentation, all that kind of stuff to share your gifts and to also learn what gifts you have. Now,
Hmm.
as kids, if we keep judging ourselves thinking, oh, well, if I don't get an A, that means I'm not lovable.
Hmm.
Or mom and dad's not going to think I'm good if I don't get good enough as a kid or as a person, right? If I don't get, um, you know, like let's say an award, from the spelling bee. So if you look at that, then what happens is they grow up kind of staying in their own lane
Hmm.
and their world gets smaller and smaller because they stay in what they can do well and do safely.
Yep.
And my observation is it's even more prevalent amongst girls than it is for boys because when boys fall off the jungle gym and they do something, they hurt themselves, unfortunately, there's a lot of bias usually where they say, oh, hey, that's okay. You tried. Go ahead, pick yourself up and keep going. Or boys will be boys, which I really don't like that phrase
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. And
Yeah.
so, um, but girls usually, there's less forgiveness when they make a mistake. So they tend to really shrink their worlds early
Mm.
on. And
Wow.
then when they grow up, here they are supposed to go up to work and they're supposed to show their best selves, but they have all of this inner judgment and all these inner limitations going on in their subconscious. And then so, like right now, I'm in, the Pacific Northwest where there's a lot of high tech, and the
Hmm.
whole concept. I mean, the whole attitude around here is fail fast and fail forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you can't fail fast if you don't really truly bring your whole self because you
Right.
don't feel safe to fail fast because you feel you're going to get judged, you're going to get fired, you're going to get whatever for it. And then so when you have kids growing up that way, they're limiting themselves as adults before they have a chance to really show their true gifts in the world and live their best lives. And I see that and I'm going, that's how I was. And it took
Yeah.
years for me to get through that. And I'm still a work in progress because we're
Yeah.
ever expanding. Right. And I just thought, if I had started off way back in the day without those limitations, how much better could my life be? How
Mm.
much more rewarding can I make those around me, to know me and how can I help them and all that kind of stuff? I mean, it's a ripple out type of
It
situation,
is.
right?
Oh, that is so
Yeah.
huge, and like the amount of shame that is carried through decades of our lives that we internalize and then become a part of our personalities and who people know us as. It's like people know us as a version of ourselves who doesn't really like ourselves. And that
Hmm.
shows up in so many different areas of life. But I thought it was a couple of things that you mentioned were very interesting. But I wanted to tap into some of the research that I've been doing on vulnerability, especially in the workplace, and like finding Google's Project Aristotle, which was a study done to figure out what made the most effective teams, the most successful teams that enjoyed working together, that produced great output. And they researched over 180 of their teams, 50,000 plus people surveyed in this, and over 100 different elements that they looked at. And the number one most critical factor that they found amongst all of that, can you guess?
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Yes.
Yeah, soft
Being
skills will
able to
outrank.
be vulnerable and take risks without the fear of repercussions.
Hmm.
Like that in itself, of having that space to mess up, to be messy, to fail fast,
Hmm.
and recover from that without losing your job, without being berated, without being ridiculed, and know that that is a part of the innovation process. That is a part of success, is
Hmm.
failing. And I thought that that was just so interesting, and something that other people in other areas of life ought to embrace. And so I thought that was fantastic. But
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
get back to something. Oh, do you have a comment there?
Oh, well, I was thinking, okay, so we talk about failing, right? And we're talking about failing fast and feeling safe enough to do so. It's also, I think, when it comes to failing, it's also knowing that, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of
You'll find it.
thought. I was like, what was that? There was some serious point about, oh well, I'll get back to it.
When you said train of thought, it made me think of Inside Out, which is a fantastic movie
Oh,
if you
yes.
haven't seen it. But there are all these different metaphors and things, and there's a train running through the little girl's brain, and it's the train of thought. There's like the sarcasm.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a big. It's
No, that was
hilarious.
hilarious.
So there's a lot of good things like that in there. But if it comes back to you, please feel free to chime in. But
Oh, I remember what it is now. Sorry.
yeah,
Okay. I think part of being vulnerable is being able to admit fault,
yes,
right? Because, I mean, we've all most likely met people, grown adults, who you try to just offer a suggestion or say something, no matter how gently you do it, and they instantly back up and bristle. And they're like, you can't tell me what to do. I know that already. Blah, 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 blah. And they just shut you down. To me, that's the little girl going, or the little boy going, oh, I can't be wrong because that means I'm not lovable. And
mm,
that goes all the way back to that message that we learned as little kids. You
yes.
cannot fail. You're not enough. You're not enough. You have to be perfect. And we don't come out of the womb perfect. None of us are, right?
Yeah,
And then so that's where that vulnerability, where I love a proper leader, the difference between leaders and managers. Leaders inspire. And a
yeah,
proper leader would say, hey, I messed up. Or
yep,
the idea that we thought was going to work, no, it's not working. So let's go ahead and change tracks. I'm learning from it. You're learning from it. How can we learn together? That's
absolutely.
vulnerability as well.
Absolutely. To have the humility to say that, right? We
Hmm.
we need that. And I think that ego, and that part that's hurt, that little boy or little girl who's hurt inside of them, is that ego, and it's stopping them from being humble and being vulnerable. But that is what helps us grow, and that's what builds trust. That's what helps us connect with other people. But if you know it all, or if you have all the answers, or never wrong, never sorry, never, then that's not human, and that's hard to connect with. So, and I
Exactly.
love that that's the title, like your book, It's Okay Not to Know.
Hmm.
That's such a great title. Like, what, where, who are you, I know you were talking about your, was it your cousin, your
My
nephew,
nephew. Uh-huh.
and in writing some of that. But who benefits from this book? Who can gain something from this?
Yeah, I love that question because it's the person reading the book to the child, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm not saying anything that no one's ever heard before. And as a copywriter, my job is to just rephrase things to try to get through your head better. But really, what it is, it's the adult that's reading this, teaching this lesson to their children. I'm hoping that they go, oh, yeah, So
Yes.
then they can be more forgiving to themselves, more
Yes.
curious instead of judgy. And that's makes them a better person to themselves and to those around them as well.
Mm,
Because kids are smart. If
yeah,
mom
they
and dad
are.
don't do it, I'm not gonna do it. They can
Right.
tell when you're just calling it in.
Definitely, definitely. That is so good. And I've had this thought, and I'll just put it out there in the world. But like we write children's books, but I think like the series of books that I'm thinking of and writing and doing all my work around, this has not even been told to the world, but you're hearing it, are inner children's books, right? And
Oh
it's
yeah.
exactly how you described it. It is a children's book that a parent will read to a child, but it's for that parent's inner child. It
Yes.
is speaking to that parent all day long, and there are lessons that that kid will pick up on and gain from, but there is a lot of healing in reading those words for that adult.
Hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Ooh, that would be powerful. That would be
I
so
like it. I
powerful.
like it. Your book falls right in line with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
I'm
that.
Yeah, you said something earlier that just baffled me, I guess. You went from not knowing the language to then writing in the voice of 50-year-old white men. That one, like how inspiring, right? To go from not even knowing this as your first language to being able to be that good of a writer to do that in a field, tech field, like that's impressive. But what comes up for you as you're writing, or are you aware of anything that up for you when you are in that voice, when you're speaking from that perspective?
No, I think you have to be a good actor in
Mm,
order to be a good copywriter, and it depends on the type of copywriting you do. I used to write direct response when I first started. Direct response is very hard hitting, very salesy, very intense with psychology, because it's all about, people call it manipulation. I like to politely say, no, I'm just guiding your thought process. But I started off in the supplement industry where I'm convincing like an 80-year-old man on a fixed income to part $45 out of their pocket to buy this bottle of something, right?
mhm.
It takes a lot of psychology to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And to keep them engaged, because it's not just buy here, here's my ingredient list, this is what it's going to do for you. No, it's got to get you emotionally riled up so you do it. And in order to do that, you have to be really good at acting. I like to say that I'm actually channeling. So I've pictured that person. I do as much research about the people, the industry, the audience, the everything as possible. It's like
Mm,
I'm always cramming for a final, for
mm,
every single project that I work on, because there's so much back end research to do. And once I get into that groove, I just kind of sit back. Sometimes I just got to put the right music on. I do
yeah.
change my music according to the mood I need to be and how much
Okay.
testosterone I need. So I can never write for to 20 some odd year old males because I just don't get y'all. And I'm okay with that. But I put that in there and then I just start letting it rip.
Mhm.
And that's the mindset you have to get in. You have to be fully immersed to be
Wow.
an effective copywriter.
Wow, that is far more than I. That's a process, and I can see like just thinking about good actors and what they do to get into a role. I mean, you have to do that as well. That's really cool. Do you ever like? There's a term, and I'm curious if you've ever identified with it or how it shows up in your life. But code switching. Have you heard of this term? And then do you feel that you've done it in life? Maybe not through your writing, but other parts of life, or whatever.
Oh
But
yeah.
how does that term land with you?
That's funny because I have a lot of black friends. And I understand code switching. Yeah, it happens very heavily there. Well, so but for Asians, yeah, I did never thought of that before, but you're totally right. Because
Mm,
when I first got my first corporate job out of college, I used to be in corporate sales. And then so when I got my first job, I was the only female on a very aggressive sales team, and I was the only ethnic person on the entire team. So I remember the first time after like a week of shadowing someone and all that kind of stuff, before I went out on my own, the sales guy said to me, Doe, you don't act the way you're supposed to. I'm like, what's that? He goes, you're supposed to be all meek and demure and you speak up a lot. You're not supposed to do that.
Wow.
Gosh.
Wow. Wow.
So sometimes code switching works both ways for me.
Mm,
Sometimes it's to go against the Asian way that I was taught, which was
mm,
to be do whatever the person wants, what you feel doesn't matter. And especially as a female, your job is to serve. Because I grew up old
mm.
school. Remember, I'm a totally
Yeah.
different generation than you, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one is sometimes that's indoctrination plays in sometimes. And I
Mhm,
catch myself going into a business environment or any environment, even to the market, it doesn't matter.
mhm,
Less now that I'm more self aware, but it was, I back off a little bit. I wouldn't
mhm.
speak up when someone accused me of something incorrectly. I just let them go ahead and blame me. That kind of stuff happened as well. And then as I learned to speak up and feel safe speaking up, I got kind of belligerent. My pendulum went the other way, right? And people were like, okay, you need to just chill out. So then I had to just back off a little bit. And then now I'm at that place where I'm just going to go, this is what it is. You
Yeah.
either accept it or you don't. And I'm okay if you don't, because I understand I am not right for everyone. And
Yeah.
it's not personal. Just
Yeah.
like, I can see you're a good person, but you drive me crazy. So I'm just going to leave you over here now.
Yeah.
Gosh, and not interact as much as you might think I need to. So,
Yes. Yes. There's freedom in that authenticity and
mhm.
just being able to show up as you are and not worrying about what other people are gonna perceive you as because they're gonna have an assumption one way or the other.
Yeah.
And if you can be comfortable with who you are and how you show up, then that's what matters and staying true to
Oh,
yourself.
oh yeah. Because when people look at me, I used to remember when I lived in Nevada, people would look at me and go, "Oh yeah, I know where you're from. You're from San Francisco, and you're in computers, right?"
Wow.
Or they thought I was a
Wow.
doctor, or yeah, CPA, and I was like, "Thank you," but I was like, "No, I'm a writer from Fresno." And that really just like what?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think I've shown up in rooms where I challenge the status quo in that same way. So, like as you just mentioned, CPA. I have a CPA. I'm certified public accountant.
Oh
That's
wow,
where my career started, and then I got into finance and wealth management. And so I walk into rooms and you don't see many people who look like me with those designations. And
yeah.
so it's always fun to challenge the norm. I think there's an uphill battle with that as well of redefining what people perceive as a wealth manager, as a writer, as an Asian person who doesn't do or does do this.
Hmm.
And but I think that as a really cool thing that you challenge people in that way.
Oh, I think you too. I mean, because what's so cool is I love blowing people's brains that way, where they think they know you, right? Because okay, um, I can look freaking prissy, and I get that. So, and it's just I've got the face, I get it, and then especially when I'm not smiling, it looks angry, and I got an angry Asian face, and that's just how it is. And then when I dress, generally speaking, my idea of casual are basically slacks and heels. So
Mhm.
I do
Wow.
look, yeah, I do look a little more formal than your average Joe. And then so when people see me, they just go, "Oh my gosh, she's so high maintenance," or something. And I was like, and then they have no idea because when people start getting to know me, they realize, wow, she's just really down to earth. If people are
Yeah.
rolling around in the mud, I'll roll around in the mud with them. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter because I'm just all about the who am I with and
Mhm.
how can I just have the best experience possible.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And is that the theme? Are those themes coming out through your book? Like just community, and I know there's a lot of curiosity in that, but what else do people gain from reading your book?
I think they gain forgiveness,
Mm,
self forgiveness, especially compassion, love. By sharing, I equate not knowing as a present. That's the metaphor. And then there's one scene where think the protagonist is giving the present to another monster, and that's the community that you picked up on. So there's a lot of it has to deal with self first.
Mhm.
So it's the curiosity, it's the self love, it's the compassion, it's getting to just see a situation for what it is instead of without the craziness of the judgment around it. It reminds me of when I had a coworker who her little son was having the hardest time learning how to tie his
Mm.
shoelaces. And he was so hard on himself. So after school, he would just practice, practice, pressing. And he was so mad because he kept thinking all the other kids at school already know how to do it. I'm
Mm.
so dumb because I can't. And he instantly started to push himself down and judge himself. And the more he was putting that pressure on himself, the harder it was for him to learn it. And it just broke his mom's heart. Right. And if we didn't have that, if we didn't have the judgment and we just went, oh, I don't know how to do it yet. Okay, well, let's just try this. Well, maybe
Yeah.
try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this. And not have the emotion behind it, the heaviness behind it, then we can just move forward faster. And that's what I'm trying to teach through the book as well. That's
Mm.
where the curiosity comes in.
Oh, I love it. I cannot wait to I'm getting multiple copies of this and I'm giving it to many people in my life.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you for writing it. I'm as an author myself, I'm always curious what like other people's experiences are with how people receive their book. Do you have any memorable stories where someone wrote you or came to you and talked about what your book has done for them?
Mm, I think my favorite one, it's the simplest one. It's the one that comes from the kids. When
Mhm.
a parent took a picture and it was story time at night. And then she goes, I just gotta let you know. This book has been in our book basket for months, and they've read it many, or I've read it to the kids many, many times. And every week we have book cuddle time or something like that. And then so what she said that what they do is she goes, okay, pick two books out of the basket, and then we'll cuddle up and read. And she just goes, every single time they pick your book. I'm so sick of reading it. You know?
Wow.
But I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Because,
Yes.
all the accolades I get, I love from the therapists, from the educators, from all those other people, and the caregivers and the parents. The ones that really mean the most to me, though, are the ones from the kids because they know, right? And they're not going to lie to you. They're going to let you
Yes,
know if
they
they don't
don't.
like it.
That is the best. Oh, it's so good to get. Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna hop into a segment and it's just fill in the blank.
Okay.
And so you let me know what comes to mind. But vulnerability makes me feel blank.
It makes me feel scared and then strong.
Mm, yes. I think that is fair. I think that is very accurate. Oh man. My biggest or my superpower is blank.
The ability to feel into someone else's heart.
Mm,
Yeah. It's all about connecting on a heart level to me. And then it's like before I got on this call, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Reggie's going to run the show. That's totally cool. I'm just going to open up my heart, feel it connecting with his, and we're going to have a beautiful time.
yes.
So that's my intent. And that's my intent for everything I do, even
Wow.
when I'm writing for a 50-year-old white man.
That is good, and I bet you have a lot of great days leading with that.
Yeah, I try to. Yeah. And then, and I'm very, very intense. So I get that. So because I'm a very, goal driven person, blah, 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 blah. It's just I'm a type A person.
Yeah.
So even with that, I know when I sit back and I look at certain situations, I can still have a great day. And when I
Mhm.
feel myself getting too intense and pulling myself down from that intensity, I'll have to sit back again and go, okay, wait, Brenda, is this what you want?
Yeah.
I go, do you
Yeah.
want to stress yourself out like this?
Yes.
And how are you helping other people this way? Because you are really a pain to be around right now.
Wow.
So I will actually talk to myself like in the third person. And that
Yeah.
usually just snaps me out of it because I'm like, okay, I get it.
I love it. I love it. If you could tell your younger self, And I want to specify your younger self. Maybe the version of you before learning English. Anything, what would it be?
That what makes you different is your superpower. It's what makes you awesome. So never lose that. You're meant to be here. You're meant to be unique. And you're meant to show to the world what you can do.
Mm.
And it's safe to be heard. That's a big one too.
That is so good. That's so good. When I need inspiration, I turn to blank.
That's a weird one for me. Because I don't have mentors. I don't have heroes. I think I'm inspired by whatever I happen to see around me. So if I need inspiration, I'll call it in. I'll talk to my upstairs team and I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm feeling like this. Bring me something to knock me out of it. Bring me something to inspire me. Bring me something to give me ideas. Just bring it. And I just stay open and I'll just wait. It could be me reading the back of a cereal box. It could be me walking down the street and hearing a mom and her daughter have a conversation. Yeah. And it could be anything. Or it could be staring at a really pretty bird outside my window. Doesn't matter.
I love it. There's a lot of presence in that. I think that's one thing that I've gathered from you. That's really cool.
Thanks. I try because I didn't used to be this way. I call this Brenda 2.0. I used to be that very stereotypical Asian who just went after one hard goal after another and just plowed over everybody and everything and didn't care just to get things done. Right. And I got things done, but boy, did I leave a lot of upset people along the way. And I wasn't happy myself. And that's when I had to sit back. I think it was my 30s when I realized, wow, this is not how you want to live your life. So
what was the catalyst for that change?
That's a good one. I think it was always coming through. There wasn't any one specific. I just remember feeling angry all the time. And I mean, really, I felt like my mother because I was thinking angry and judgy, never happy with anything around you. Every time I saw something or heard something, I would instantly critique it and say, oh, they're so stupid. Oh, this is so dumb. Oh, that's so ugly. This is so messy. It was just one complaint after another. And then all of a sudden I sat back and I remember talking to my dad going, I'm turning out to be like mom.
Wow.
He goes, well, that's not good. I go, no, it's not. I need to do something about it.
How'd your mom feel about that?
She doesn't know. Dad knows. I can't talk to mom about it because she's told her judgy ways. She just knows I'm not as argumentative somehow. I grew up.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's been a true honor to hear your story and to get to connect with you. And I hope that people reach out and can learn more, get the book, do all of those things. But do you have any last final thoughts for the audience and things you want to leave them with?
Final thoughts. I would just say, always know you're meant to be here and you are more than enough. Always know that. Because there are no mistakes. Ever. And there isn't the whole, when people say, well, I didn't ask to be here. I go, yeah, you kind of did. Yeah. On some soul level, whatever your beliefs are, you made it here.
Yeah.
So make the best of it and know that you are so much more capable than you really believe you are. You could be at the top of your game right now and you're still capable of more. And that doesn't mean you have to suddenly explode and, earn more money, help more people, or anything like that. Open your heart. It will tell you what you're more of and what you're capable of because your heart always knows. And actually, that is one thing I do want to tell people. Start thinking with your heart and feel with your brain. Go opposite. Because this will never lead you astray. It's always your head that's meant to protect you by overanalyzing and thinking and limiting. Shut that off. Because if you're ever trying to make a decision, you know what the right decision is when you really feel into it because it feels calm. It doesn't feel full of anxiety or I shoulda, coulda, woulda, none of that junk. It's just, yeah, this feels right. And then that's what you should go with. Follow your heart.
That is very insightful. Thank you for that. And I receive those words because you were speaking to me at some point in that. And so thank you for that. And I'll add to that, any room that you show up in, any room that you find yourself in, you belong there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the imposter syndrome, the thoughts, the negative self-talk that you may have, that comes from some conditioning that isn't your truth. And so know that when you're in a room, you belong there no matter who else is around you, and walk in your power. So I'll
Oh, I
add that.
love that you said that because
Mhm.
I actually had to go through a process when I wrote this book and I started marketing it. I didn't feel like an author.
Mm.
Yeah, and I write for a living.
Yeah.
That was trippy. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I don't deserve to be call myself an author. I just channeled the book. It's okay. I'll just say I channeled the
Wow.
book," because it came to me too easily, quote unquote,
Yeah.
right?
Right. When you're
And
good at something, that's what happens.
thanks. So so many times in my life, in different roles, corporate roles, or in different situations, even at a party, I would walk in a room going, "Ooh, I don't know if I belong here." So I'm glad that you said that for me to hear it as well. So thank you.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, Brenda, how can people reach you if you want them to? How can people reach you? How can they get the book? Where can they find it? All those things.
They can go to my website, brendado.com. There they can buy the book directly through me, or they can go through their favorite indie bookstore. They can go through Amazon. They can go anywhere they want. If they don't see it in the store, they can just ask for it and they can get it ordered really quickly. They can reach me through the website, through my social handles. It's all on the website. Best
Awesome.
thing though is email. I'm pretty old school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're gonna do it through social, I might get to you next year. So
Good
if
to
it's
know.
urgent,
Good to know.
email me.
Definitely good to know. Well, Brenda, with all the things you could be doing and all the places you could be, I appreciate you being here with me, embracing vulnerability.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. When I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, I got to talk to him. I love this title. So,
Yeah.
so
Thank
thank you.
you. Thank you for joining us in another episode of Vulnerability Muscle. If you've enjoyed these conversations around vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us to continue to do the work that we do, but it allows other people to witness the power of vulnerability. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And don't forget to spread the word. You can follow us at Vulnerability Muscle on Instagram and me personally at Reggie D Ford across all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and support. And remember, embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is the source of your greatest strength. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but most workouts are. So keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.